My dear friend, तो आज मैं इंडियन एंड वर्ल्ड जियोग्राफी का कुछ टॉपिक पढ़ूंगा, तो ये वीडियो आप देखते रहिए। Wind. Winds are the generated as a result of the horizontal difference in the pressure. The horizontal difference in the air density led to the horizontal difference in the air pressure. These generate the winds. The winds blow from the high pressure to the low pressure areas. Force affecting the velocity and the direction of wind. The factors affecting the velocity and the directions of the winds are pressure gradient force. The difference in the atmospheric pressure produces the force. The rate of the change of the pressure with the respect to the distance is the pressure gradient. The pressure gradient is the strong where the isobars are the close to each other and is weak the where the isobar are the apart. If the pressure the gradient is strong, the velocity of the winds is the higher. Fractional force. It the affected the speed of the winds. It is the greatest at the surface, and it is the influence generally the extent up to and the evolution of 1 to 3 kilometers. Over the sea surface, the friction is the minimal. The velocity of the wind decrease with the increase in the friction force. Coriolis force. The rotation of the earth about it is the axis that created Coriolis force that affected the directions of the wind. The Coriolis force that deflected the wind to the right direction in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. The deflection is more when the wind velocity is high. The Coriolis force the sense with the direction but not it is the speed. The Coriolis force is directly proportional to the angles of the latitude. It is the maximum at the poles and is the absent at the equators. The Coriolis force act perpendicular to the pressure gradient force. The The pressure gradient force is the perpendicular to in and the isobar. The higher is the pressure, the gradient force, the more is the velocity of the wind, and the largest is the deflection in the direction of the wind. Pressure and wind. The winds in the upper atmosphere are the free from the frictional effect of the surface and are the controlled mainly by the pressure gradient and the Coriolis force. When the isobar are the when there is no the friction, the pressure gradient force is the balances by the Coriolis force and the resultant wind belongs the parallel to the isobar. This wind is known as the geostropic winds. The direction of the geographic winds is the toward the right in the northern hemisphere and the toward the left in the southern hemisphere. The wind circulation around the law is the all the cyclonic circulations. The wind circulation. The wind circulation about the high is all the empty circulation. The directions of winds around the solar system descends accordingly to their locations in the different hemisphere. Planetary winds. Winds the blowing the consequently throughout the year in the particular direction are the called the planetary winds. There are three main planetary wounds that develop the consequently from the high to the low pressure below and weft of the water throughout the year. They are the trade wound, the Australians and the polar wounds. General circulations of the atmosphere. The patterns of the movement of the planetary wounds is the called the general circulations of the atmosphere. Downs below near the land surface, the air flows toward the equator as the Australians from the either side of the equator converge in the intertropical conference zone (ITCZ). Such the circulation such as the surface upward and the vice versa are called just the cell in the tropic is called the Herplesia. In the middle latitude, the circulation is that of the sinking cold air that comes from the poles and the according to this law, the winds turn toward the right in the northern hemisphere and to their left in the southern hemisphere. The winds are the deflect from their or true gradient courses as a the result of the correlation forces which is generated by the rotations of the earth. El Nino and La Nino. The El Nino and the La Nino are the oceanic phenomena driven by the atmospheric circulation. They are the ocean atmosphere coupled phenomena. The warm water of the Central Pacific Ocean slowly drift towards the South America coast and the reflects the cold Peruvian currents. Suns Northwestern. This is the warm, the dry, and the gusty winds blowing in the northern New Zealand. Bora. It is the extremely cold and the dry northeasterly winds the blowing along with the shores of the Adriatic Sea. Brinjart at the Purgals Buran. These the winds that affect the polar regions of the Canada and the USA on the arrival of the Brinjart. The air temperature drops below the freezing point. Norte. This is the northeastern wind blowing in the Central America in winter. Peru. These are the cold polar winds that blowing the very vast in the Pampas regions of the South America. Levanter. It is the stronger easterly cold wind in the southern Spain. Papagüe. These are the fast blowing the northeastern easterly cold and the dry winds that blow in the coastal region of Mexico. Puna. This is the cold the local wind in the Andes region. Lu. It is the very hot and the dry winds which the blow from the west to east in the plains of the northern Indian and Pakistan in the May and the June, usually in the afternoon. It is the temperature range between the 45 degree to 50 degree. And the afternoon the causes the sunstroke to the people that exposed to it. Cold waves. These waves below in the Ganga Plain, Ganga Plain from the west to east in the month of the December and January. Jet stream. Jet stream have been termed as the high altitude river of air. These are the high velocity winds that blowing at the high altitude. These are the tubular shafts, the meandering flow of the winds moving from the west to east, located at the latitude of the 5 to 12 kilometer. They are the more pronounced in the southern hemisphere. The jet stream winds have the velocities of the 300 to 500 km per hour. The greatest velocity is generally occur over the eastern part of the continent and the western side of the ocean basin. The lowest velocity occur in the longitudinal or the western sector near the surface subtropical high pressure cell. The velocity change the seasonally and the winter velocities and the doubled and the summer velocity. The highest speed in the winter occur along the Asian coast over the southern USA and in the regions between the North Africa and the Indian Ocean. Types of the jet stream. The polar front jet stream are the found where the tropical and the polar air interact between the 40 degree to and 60 degree latitude. The polar front jet stream is the very irregular in this the longitudinal sections and it is discontinuous. Westerly subtropical jet stream run from the west to the east and is the more the persistence over the Indian and Africa during the summer. Easterly tropical jet stream run is the upper the troposphere. Polar jet streams are also known as the stratospheric subpolar jet stream. These are found in both the hemisphere and develop above the troposphere in the winter night. Cyclone. The cyclones are developed in the areas of the air mass, the conflict and the well-developed front. The cyclones are areas of the low pressure at the center of the low pressure is surrounded by the clouds. The concentric isobar which indicate the movement of the winds towards the center from all the quadrant and the cardinal direction. They move in the anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and the clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere due to the coriolis effect. The cyclones are classified into two types, such as the temperate cyclone and the tropical cyclone. Temperate cyclone. Temperate cyclones are the concentrate in the middles, the latitude between the 35 degree and the 65 degree. The origin and the influence of these cyclones is in the temperature zones, due to the which they are the known as the temperate cyclone. The system developing in the mid and the high latitude beyond the tropics are the called the middle latitude and the extra tropical cyclones. The temperate the cyclones are the generally extensive. They have the vertical thickness the ranging from the 9 to 11 kilometer and the diameter of the 1000 kilometer. They are more the active in the winter in the northern hemisphere, but due to the prominence of the water in the southern hemisphere, they are the active throughout the year. The extratropical cyclones affect much the larger areas as the compared to the tropical cyclone. The extratropical cyclones move from the west to east, but the tropical cyclones move from the east to west. Tropical cyclones. The tropical cyclones are the violent storm that originate over the oceans in the tropical areas and the moves over to the coastal areas, bringing about the large the scale the destructions causes by the violent winds, very heavy the rainfall and the storm the sargas. They are the known as the cyclones in the Indian Ocean, uh, hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean, trophonas in the southern Pacific Ocean, and the southern China Sea. Willias in the western Australia. The tropical cyclones the originate and the intensity of over the warm the tropical ocean wind, the continuous supply of the mostly from the sea, and the storm is the further are extended on the reaching the land of as the moisture supply is the cut off and the storm the dissipates. The place where the tropical cyclone goes at the coast in the called landfall of the cyclone. The wind reaches the maximum velocity in these the regions, racing as high as 250 km per hour. Eye of the cyclone. The Metsa tropical cyclone is the characterized by the strong, the spirally circulating winds around the center called the eye. The diameter of the circulating system can vary between the 150 and the 250 km. The eye is the region of the calm with the subsiding air. Around the eye is the eye wall, where there is the strong spelling ascent of air to the greater the highest, reaching the tropopause, thunderstorm and the torn- tornadoes. The thunderstorms and the tornadoes are the several the local storms of the short duration occurring over a small area, but are the violent. Thunderstorm are the causes by the intense the convections of miles hot day, as it is while the grown the communicrums the cloud the protecting thunders and the lifting lifting when the cold the ascent to the highest where the sub-zero temperature the prevalence hills are formed, and they comes down as the hailstorm. If there is the insufficiency the moisture, a thunderstorm can generate dust storm. A thunderstorm is characterized by the intense updraft of the rising warm air, which causes the cold to the grow bigger and the rise to the greater heights. This causes the